Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this Friday Night Rabble podcast. Obviously, transfer deadline day, so as we come on the air, news breaks. That's just the nature of the beast. Of course, later on tonight at 9:30, Martin will be back on with the lads, taking you through the last embers of transfer deadline day, and sure he'll have his yellow tie at the ready for any last minute signings that may or may not be announced. So we'll go through that. We'll go through the Europa League draw, of course, took place earlier on today as well, just to pack more into an already busy day in the news cycle. And then, of course, everybody is starting to feel the battle fever because on Sunday, the Old Firm derby returns, and Rangers, well, at this point in time, we're not entirely sure what the squad will look like going into it, but after a stonking 6-0 thumping of Ross County last week, perhaps just a little bit more optimism in the air going into this one than there otherwise would have been. And with me to discuss all of that and more, I'm sure, get your comments in, I've got Ian. How are we?
I'm all right, mate. Just counting down the hours, not only to the end of the transfer window, but to the end of the school summer holidays and sending my kids back to school. Can't wait.
Well, of course, yes, that's the deadline day that you're most looking forward to. And Lewis, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. It's actually I'll no need to worry about the transfer deadline day up until this point, so happy about that. But I'm looking forward to see what the rest of the night brings.
Yes, well, absolutely. I must admit, I actually haven't hosted an actual Rabble pod for a while. This feels like I should be talking about the rest of the Scottish leagues, particularly with you two on, because this is, that's what I've been doing recently. But Ian, obviously, as I said there, as we come on the air, or just before it, we did finally get an official announcement that we have signed a Dutch defender. Now, I'm going to attempt this without butchering it, so bear with me. Neriasho Casanwiro, I believe is how you pronounce it. Either that or I've just ordered something in Japanese. On loan, on a season-long loan from Feyenoord. First of all, just your thoughts on that signing overall. Again, it's another fairly young lad coming in the door to add to what we've already brought in, with Robin Proper being there and Leon Balogun obviously there as well, alongside John Souttar. Is this just a replacement for Ben Davies?
Well, we keep getting told that it'll be one out, one in, and it'll be the positions that go out that get replaced the quickest. So it looks like it's a Davies replacement. But the fact that you can play pretty much anywhere along that back line as well is useful. I've seen a few people, because I don't know a great deal about the lad, and if I came on here and started telling you this lad's amazing and this guy's this guy's that, I'd be lying to you. And we don't do that. We don't make up stuff just to make ourselves look good. Not on this one anyway. From what I've heard, people are calling him the Dutch Sterling. So if he is half as good as Dijon Sterling is in that sense, then we've got a player. I haven't watched the obligatory YouTube video. I have looked, because I saw someone post one earlier and I was going to watch it, but they always make it look better than it can be. But you don't get to play for Feyenoord at any level if you aren't some sort of quality. And I mean, Ian, my namesake, the staunchest name on the Rabble these days. I'm glad that Connor's hosting tonight, because I literally would have just called him Dave and moved on, because I would have not got that out. I mean, I struggle with our own players' names that I do know, so chance of getting that one right would have been wrong, really, really bad. You've got to trust Clement on this. He knows some of the players that he's bringing in. Obviously, he's seen some of them. You've got to trust Kloppen as well. It's their job to bring these people in. So I don't know much about him. I'm looking forward to finding out more about him. Whether we see him at the weekend, time will tell. But it's a good start. Eventually, I say a good start. It's at least something coming in the door, because we are all itching for more signings. And hopefully, if what rumours are to believed, he's not the only one.
Yes, absolutely. There is another potentially on the way. I will not attempt to pronounce his name until we got into actual chatting about him. And I can see it's heated up in the comments about my pronunciation. I would just say you could have all had a go yourself, and I'm sure you'd have done a bang up job. But Lewis, on the Casemiro, I think, it's again, as Ian said, to play for Feyenoord at any kind of level, I suppose you have to be half decent. But then when I'm looking at it, 22 years old, he actually only made 7 appearances for Feyenoord in the main. Obviously, while playing the young team, he was on loan at Rapid Vienna last year. 23 appearances for them in the Austrian top flight. So, I mean, that's not bad to a degree, but I think clearly from what I can see, it feels like another kind of signing. Clearly, because he's on loan, you can't just see him as a project, can you? He's going to have to be used, otherwise, what have we brought him in for? And that's without being, negative. That's maybe my concern, Lewis, is that normally these players are players you sign permanently to build for the future, rather than he's came in on loan. Where does he fit in as a first team player?
Well, before this signing was made, we would all sit here and say we're absolutely buzzing because it did look dire the majority of the day that just nothing was going to happen. So we could have signed anybody and it would have looked promising. So to just today a wee bit of a deeper dive. He's played 115 games, and out of the 115, he's played 103 90s. So that's really, really impressive consistency for somebody in that position at that age, centre back. So yeah, I think he's actually played right back a lot. I don't know if he's primarily a right back, but he can certainly play right back or centre back. Either way, for a defender to play, that many games and at a level like the Eredivisie with Groningen, I believe he's played most of his football, and then like you said, Rapid Vienna as well. I actually think they were in Europe last year as well, so he's get that in
So
his locker.
Just going to throw this at you while you're in your flow there for Andrew Lamb. He's questioning whether or not it's a potential Tav replacement.
Well, I actually think that that would be the end goal. For what I can see, I think the majority of his playing time in his career, he's been a right back. I think he's only 6 foot, which you get centre backs that are 6 foot, but in this day and age, a lot of your centre backs you want to be 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" plus. So I think the long term plan would be for this boy to become the heir to Tav, definitely. But this moment in time, I think he would maybe come in as a centre back / right back, and I think that's actually a really, really good bit of business, because one of the biggest problems getting into this season is that our captain is unfortunately starting to dwindle, and it would just do him the world of good to have somebody there to come in and cover him and allow Dujon Sterling to play what I think is personally his best position, and what the manager seems to think is his best position as a defensive midfielder. So I actually think it's a really good bit of business, and the fact we get to have a look at him first, I think it's just an option to buy. Again, that's another smart bit of business because it doesn't mean we're forced into the deal. And 22 years of age, Dutch, plays in a position that we desperately, desperately need. Good experience, European games under his belt. I think that's actually a really, really good signing. When you do a wee bit of research, it's easy to get excited about this guy.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Actually, with pretty much 99% of what was said there, Ian. But on the Tav point, I thought, and call me crazy, I thought Dujon Sterling was the plan for the future to replace Tav. Obviously we can see with Tav this season in terms of sorry, my apologies. The producer just decided to throw me off my stride there. But we can see obviously there's been some criticism of Tav at the start of this season about the legs going and stuff like that. So maybe this helps rotate things a bit more. You can use him, this new fella who I'm not going to try and pronounce his name again. I've done that already. Can be part of the rotation of the squad with the amount of games we've got. But is Sterling still for you the future option, or if this goes well, do you envisage us making this a permanent deal by next summer?
As much as I agree with Lewis on the option to buy being a good bit of business, because then we're not forced to make a deficit into any funds we've got for the next window or whatever. If he does well with us, he might well play himself out of our price range, which has happened. It does happen. You think Malik Tillman, for example, played himself out of our price range. Admittedly, he didn't want to come, but he did play himself out of our price range. But if the manager sees this as a Tav replacement, which we don't know, he might not. Does that mean then that Sterling, as you say, because we all thought it was him, does he see Sterling now more in a midfield role to bring him into that role? Same like the rumor with Leon King was that he didn't see King as a centre back. He saw him more of a central defensive midfielder, so he's retraining him to play in that position. So maybe they're going to do the same with Sterling, and they're just checking to see if this lad's any good to come in and then maybe replace Tav. And like you say, Tav's at the age, and you won't find any two bigger people on here that have defended Tav than me and Lewis. So I think you go back through the annals of Rabble history, you'll see me and Lewis defend Tav quite a lot. It's quite obvious his legs are going. It happens as you get older. Your legs go. You lose a bit of pace. Still going forward, he's still a threat. He's proven that. He can still get balls into the box. He's done that. So he could do with not playing every single game in a season because he doesn't need to. Not in Scotland, anyway. For the big ones, he's there. If he can get the rest, maybe you'll see him come on in the bigger games. So it'll go back more to the Tav that we knew before. So if you can get a rest. So, again, it's only one of those things that only time will tell. Because obviously, my new mate Dave, who's just signed, is going to have to go through international clearance. I wouldn't expect to get that anytime before Monday morning, if you would call me a cynic. So... Again, only time will tell. I think it makes sense to get cover for Tav, whether it be Sterling or our new man. But maybe Sterling's role lies more in a midfield position because he has literally every time he goes in, you feel safe with Sterling in your midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay then. The other player was that it seems will be donning the Rangers jersey by the end of this day is Nedim Bajrami. Actually, a little bit easier to pronounce, I think, than the Dutch fella. He comes in as what is posed as an attacking midfielder. His Wikipedia actually says attacking midfielder stroke winger, so there you go. Reported that deal's worth about €4 million, which is £3.4 million. Thoughts on that one? Again, 25, so maybe a bit more experienced. He's certainly had a lot more first team football under his belt. I think he's had over 200 professional appearances already. Feels like the type of player we could be doing with signing, to be fair. I think we do need another attacking option in our midfield or a winger. What's your kind of thoughts on Bajrami?
Well, I'm afraid I think I might be in the unpopular camp with this signing because we are on the verge of spending £4 million on a 25-year-old attacking midfielder with a decent international career for a lower to mid-level European side that his best season was in 21-22. That to me, that just sounds very familiar. None other than Mr. Yanis Hadji, 25 years of age, decent international pedigree for a low to mid-level European international side. And his best last season was the 21-22 campaign. So I just don't understand it. I really don't. And if it's a case of, stylistically or tactically that Clement just doesn't see Yanis Hadji fitting into his system, whether that's to do with a lack of athleticism, that's fine. But to me, it's just for the fee as well. If it was different, if it was a wee bit less money, like half of that, or even a free contract or something, but spend £4 million on a profile that's very similar to a guy that has already shown he can do it at the football club, and I think he's been treated like absolute dog shit, to be honest. It doesn't get me as excited, in all honesty. No, it's probably a Cyril Dessler situation. I hope it will be. I was on the podcast when that transfer was coming up, and I said, look, we've got a guy same age, same profile, and Antonio Cholak, and I was made to eat my words because he looks like he's about to go on and score 30+ goals this season. So I hope that I'm all wrong again, but. Like I said, I really do feel for Yanis Hadji when he's sitting there and he's training and he's willing to work, and I think there's even been rumours that he's willing to sit down and have a discussion about the contract. And it's a guy that has a personal connection to the fans and to the football club. It's a strange one for me. Strange one.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, why is it you think, on the back of Lucy's point then, why is it that we're prepared to go out and spend, 3.5 million basically on a player and not use Yanis Hadji, who can fulfil the same role, and he's already in the squad? I mean, obviously, it looks as though we're still trying to get him off the books, although the clock is ticking on that. I know there's rumours going about Steaua Bucharest being a potential destination, which, with the conversation we'll have later about the Europa League draw, could be interesting if that does happen. But why do you think that is? That it's just not happened for Hadji, and we're splashing out money on a new player to fill that role?
It does seem a bit weird, because if we're complaining that we've got to pay him X amount more if he plays one more game for the club, how can we then go and buy, as Lewis says, a player that plays in the same position as him and pay him what will be substantially more than his increase per year? Because he's not going to come in on a pittance. This guy's coming from a club that were in Serie A. Yes, they got relegated, but he's going to be coming from Serie A, and he's not going to come on a wage cut. I mean, I doubt he's probably on 25 to 30 grand a week. No doubt he's not. But if you're paying him 10, 15 grand a week, that's still more than what the increase is for Hadji. Again, another Hadji fan. I like Hadji, and one of our former podders in James used to wax lyrical about him, the fact that boy can see a past that other people can't see. And if you're playing to someone, I mean, Des, as much as he's been maligned, you look at the work he does and the runs he makes, Hadji would have a field day trying to pick him out. So it's a weird one. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. That obviously there's been some breakdown between him and Clement. We have had contrived messages on social medias regarding, I want my agent to go out and find me the manager in the club that I want to play for, and then coming back saying, actually, I've never wanted to leave. We don't know what's going on in the middle. We don't know what's going on behind the closed doors, but it does seem a bit strange. It doesn't mean that if Bajrami comes in, that he's not going to get my support. Of course he will. He's going to put the top on, he's going to play, then he'll get my support. It does just sound a bit strange.
Well, let me throw some numbers at you here, Ian, and I'll go to Lewis as well, because I know Lewis is he quite likes his stats. Anticipating that this might be what comes up in this conversation, I did crunch some numbers. So comparing the two of these guys, right, both in the same position in effect, Bajrami, from the numbers I have crunched up, has made 247 professional appearances in his career thus far at the age of 25. He in that time doesn't have the best goal return. He's got 30 goals in 247 professional career appearances at 25. Yanis Hadji, who's the exact same age as him, conversely to that, actually has got 45 goals and a career total of 184 appearances. Now, part of that comes down to, and there's people in the comments who've mentioned that, of course, the injury issues, the consistency of performance sometimes hadn't always been there. But when you look at that, Ian, it does appear that Hadji, when he's on it, clearly, and this is without seeing the boy, so that, again, I hope, like the Lewis, obviously, the Dessler situation, he proves is wrong. But you look at the career so far and the levels he's played at, Hadji seems the more potent goal scorer.
He does seem the more potent goal scorer, but not only that, he's from the games. Obviously, we've seen a lot more of Hadji than we have of Bajrami. The one game in the Euros that he's famed for, I missed, so I didn't even see that game. to score the quickest goal in the Euros and etc. That's got him into the limelight more than anything else over this summer as well. But not only could Hadji score important goals, he did it as soon as he came into the club, Hibs and Braga. He picks out some amazing passes. You think Ryan Kent away in Braga, that ball through to get Kent away, superb ball. It's just that eye. He has. I mean, this is a little bit deeper than it needs to be, but he comes from great footballing stock, does he not? His dad is one of the best players in the world, or was, obviously, for his age, and he's obviously got some learning from him. And he's got that in his blood as well. The kid's got something, and he knows where the goal is, and he knows how to find his own players. I'm not saying that Bajrami can't be a success at Rangers. I just wish we'd give more chance to Hadji. Maybe we sit down and just say, right, you can stay, but see this part of the deal, we want to get rid of that. You can stay on the same wage, but want to get rid of it because the injury is not his fault. He played in a game he should never have been playing in. So we can't blame him for getting injured in a game he shouldn't have even been playing in. But I just like Hadji too much to be fair on this one to Bajrami, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, the thing is, though, right, and before we do sort of part of this here, and I do have to apologise because I got my numbers slightly wrong there. Hadji's actually 238 appearances, but still scored 45 goals, which is still more goals and less appearances than Bajrami. But, Lewis, I mean, the flip side of all this, of course, is there is obviously a reason that Hadji fell out of favour. And clearly, if you're Philip Clement and you've set yourself that Hadji's going to go, then you do have to look for that replacement. The fact that we're forking out £3.5 million for this guy, you would like to hope that the scouting department have done a bit of homework to be able to tell the club that that's a fair valuation to put on him. Because obviously we're not in a position to overpay for players, particularly when it's a couple of £1 million like this. So, I mean, already coming in with that price tag, there's going to be a pressure, not just on his shoulders, but on Clement's shoulders to justify the price tag that he's had the club sort of fork out for him.
You know, mate, the word that rings out to me there and your wee spiel is hope. And that's all we can really have, unfortunately, because we don't make the decisions, and all we can do is hope that the scouting department that you mentioned, that which, by the way, is a bit of a failure in the last few years. So, you know, I hope that some of the guys in the comments that are ranting and raving about Hadji being shit can understand why me and Ian are a bit sceptical about the scouting department looking at a guy that's the exact same age, very similar output, and we've got one sitting there that would command a lot less over a year's period in finances rather than forking out £4 million. And it's Rangers fans. We're very, very we've got very short memories, and this is a guy 22 years of age, had 18 goal involvements and 23 starts at Rangers in a title winning season. He then tore his ACL the next year. When he returned for that injury, he scored in like his second game and then was absolutely disbanded by the idiot that is Michael Beale. Went on a poorly chose out loan at a team in La Liga that was always going to struggle. And for what I gathered, didn't play great football. So you're saying that Hadji's like he's too good to, or he's too technical or too soft or not athletic enough to play in Scotland, and you send him out to a team that's going to be defending for their lives in La Liga. It's just poor decision making, and I think he's just been treated really, really unfairly. And like I said, just when you look at the numbers, you look at their age, you look at their experience, what they've contributed, you're just bringing in a guy that seems to be the exact same. Now, I've never seen this guy play. Like I said at the start, before anything else I spouted about Hadji, I've never seen this guy play. It might be a stylistic or a tactical decision that maybe he's a bit more athletic than Hadji. And, you know, we've obviously got a few Serie A experts in the comments that have watched this guy's whole 247 90 minutes. I seem to say he's been rapid, he's strong, he's more powerful. But I haven't. I'll be honest, I've never seen the guy play, so that might very well be it. But when you look at it on paper, it seems a very, very strange decision when you consider the fact that there's a lot of other positions on the pitch that we need And personally, I probably would have just got rid of the 10 if we weren't going to keep Hadji, because Tom Lawrence is immobile. He's very close to useless, unfortunately. And that's another guy. They both had a very similar length of time out. Why was Tom Lawrence given a chance, but Yanis Hadji wasn't? Tom Lawrence was a decent start to his Rangers career. That's all he had. Yanis Hadji's had a season where he's almost contributed 20 goals. He's performed in multiple European games for Rangers as well. And he just wasn't given a chance. And now he's shit, apparently. Well, he's shit because we've not seen him play in like 2 years. Obviously, he's going to be shit because we can't remember what it looks like to watch him play football. So it just seems a very strange decision to me. Again, hope I'm wrong. Hope it's a Cyril Dessers situation. Hope I eat my words. Hope he comes in and he contributes a matter early season. But I don't. On paper, I don't see it.
Well, I tell you what, Ian, James Stewart, £50 super chat. James, that is superb. Well done, my friend. Lads, Sunday a must win. Well, we will touch on that a little later on in the show, James, so stick around, and we will we'll tell you what, for 50 quid, I'll bring your comment back up when we touch on it. I think you've more than earned that. Obviously, somebody who knows where he wants his deadline day headlines coming from. Okay, gents, moving off the transfer news for now. As I said earlier, Martin will be back with the lads and a couple of guests at 9:30. We'll be live again for that last hour and a half of the transfer window. So stick around after the show. Once you go and get your cup of tea, get yourself comfortable and stick around for that. Any goings on that happens, you'll hear it here first. Okay, Ian, today, of course, we found out our fate in the Europa League. And, you know, you would be forgiven for thinking that we had actually qualified for the Champions League with the group that we got. So we'll just go through it. I'll put it up in the bottom of the screen here. There we are. So the draw, as you can see there, that Rangers have got. We have got Spurs, Manchester United, Lyon, Olympiacos, Union Saint-Gilloise, Malmo, FC Steaua Bucharest, and Nice. Well, there's not much Nice about that draw, I can tell you. Ian, your immediate thoughts just straight away when you seen that draw this afternoon?
My immediate thought is that's the second time I've heard that joke today, and it wasn't any better when Martin told it earlier on.
But, in my defence, I didn't see Martin say that earlier on. I wasn't watching if he said it on the show. So just in case anybody thinks I've stolen it from him, believe me, Martin's patter is the last patter that I would be stealing.
Well, the first thing that jumps out of you is we have played, with the exception, I think, of 2 of those teams, we've played every single one of them before. And every single one of them we've played in the Champions League at some point. The only, I think it's only Spurs and Nice that we haven't played. I think everyone else we've played in the Champions League. Olympiacos, maybe not. I'm not sure. Definitely the rest of them. So yeah, it shows you the quality that's in the Europa League. A lot of people, with the way that the Champions League had changed throughout the years, and sorry, Lewis, is probably more aimed at you than a lot of us who were on the pod. But if you go back before the Champions League was formed, I was only a teenager when the Champions League was formed and whatnot. I always found that the UEFA Cup, as it was back then, was the harder of the European competitions to win, because that's where the most consistent teams were. Because anybody back then in like 80s, early 90s, pretty much anyone could win a league, and you could get in, you win a few games, you could get a decent run to the European Cup final, as it was back then. But the UEFA Cup always had the more difficult teams. It seems to be turning that way again, because you look at the teams that are in there. I mean, we think we've got a tough draw. I think Lewis might be able to confirm this for me, because obviously he has leanings towards Manchester United as well. But I don't think they've got a fairly comfortable group themselves. I think in some ways it might even be more difficult than what we've got. Whereas teams in pot 2 seem to have an easier run of it. But my weight with these things is you've got to play these teams at some point. If you want to win it, you are going to have to play these teams. And I'm not saying that we're going to do another run to the Europa League final. Don't get me wrong. I know there's people in the wings waiting to clip stuff up and shove it on different social media platforms. And if that's your thing, crack on and do it. But you get into these competitions, you want these ties. This is what you want. I was kind of hoping we'd get Spurs away because it's just down the road from me, and I could have tried to get to that one, but never mind. And I've got a few mates that are Spurs fans as well, so I'm hoping that Spurs nil up here as opposed to the team that flies about. Even my Spurs friends have said it depends what Spurs team you get on the day. You actually might have a chance, just depending on what Spurs teams that turn up. Because either we're really good or we're really bad. There's no in between. There's some decent trips in there as well, though. I'm sure Wilf is already booked up and ready to go on every single one of them. He's going to need to do it quickly because obviously you can't wait till tomorrow because obviously the internet's going to just be on fire tomorrow. So there's no point trying to do anything then. But exciting, some brilliant ties in there. The fact that we will be back at Ibrox in time to play these games as well will give us a bit of an extra bump, which gives us a little bit more of a chance because I did catch a little bit of the watch along for the draw, and they were quite right that playing these games at Hampden just wouldn't be the same. Ibrox is just different, as Yanis Hadji once said in an interview, just to bring it back to him. It's just different, and that gives us a little bit more when we're going forward. Some of the best teams have been to Ibrox, and they've been spooked by it. And one of Manchester United's own, I think Gary Neville said that Ibrox is one of the best atmospheres he's ever played in. Buffon said the same. It's just different place, isn't it? So hopefully some exciting ties to come, and we do ourselves proud. And I think we could get through maybe not the top 8, but we could get that playoff place at a minimum, I think.
Yeah, listen, you never know. And listen, you talk about the glamour of it and stuff like that. It is a unique situation in that with the new format and the way things are, getting 2 English Premier League sides, I mean, that's really unheard of. You would never draw 2 English sides in the same group. For example, in the old format, you would need to qualify and then get them down the line. Of course, Aston Villa will obviously play Celtic in the Champions League as well. So there's a few battles of Britain ongoing. But Lewis, you're kind of overall taking on it. It's a tough draw. I mean, I have to say, if I'm looking at our draw today and I'm looking at the Champions League draw that they got yesterday, I actually think I prefer their Champions League group. And that's incredible. But equally, does that just show you that for all sometimes it can be lamented being in the Europa League, it shows the quality of side that still take part in that competition?
It's not only that, like Rangers really do need to be proper proud of our performances in this competition over the last 5 seasons. Like I think we were the third or fourth highest ranked in pot one. It was only Man United and Tottenham, I believe, that were higher than us. We sit in the top 30 of UEFA club rankings. Our European form, specifically in the Europa League, has been absolutely immense. Ibrox is a fortress. I think we've only had 3 defeats in this competition in that time frame. We've got a bit of a reputation to uphold now. Even last season when we were dire, we ended up getting some really good performances. I think we were very unlucky to not go through against Benfica. I mean, you look at that first leg, it was I think it was a penalty, wasn't it? A penalty and a freak on goal for Conor Goldson. And Benfica have never, ever been beat away at home in the Europa League, and we were very, very, very close to doing so. The away one at Betis as well, and that's just last season. So I think we've got a special connection with this competition. Ibrox has a special connection with this competition. It's the reason that Ibrox is up there with some of the best atmospheres worldwide, never mind just in Europe. And the draw is tough, man. It's very, very tough. There's no other way about it. I think I was in Celtic's draw or much of a muchness, but I would probably slightly prefer Celtic's. I think they've got a much more winnable set of weaker teams to play. And despite that, I would fancy both Scottish teams to go through. I think there's certainly 9 to 10 points available here for Rangers. I would fully expect us to be getting 3 points against USG at home and still Bucharest at home. I would expect to beat Malmo away from home, and then surely we can get a draw, maybe against Lyon at home, Nice away. It's tough, but like I said, our connection with this competition is strong, and I fully expect that to continue. And I'm personally very, very happy because in my adult life, I've never got to see my two teams play. Unfortunately, it is not at Ibrox, but it will still be very, very enjoyable to see them come up against each other.
You're very confident about the Malmo thing. I've never seen Rangers beat Malmo in European competition, just to put that out there.
No, I'm the same as you, Ian. That one horrified me. I must say, probably more than because you get bogey teams in all competitions, and Malmo are very much our bogey team when it comes to Europe. I mean, you look at, was it 2011? I think they knocked us out in the qualifying for Champions League, knocked us out a couple of years ago. And I mean, when you think you've got a chance as well, we ended up down at 10 men at Ibrox against us, and we still couldn't get the damn job done. So yeah, tough one to come up. What I have done, for those who don't know how it works, I have made a couple of other wee banners to split it. So the home ties are thus. That is the home games that we will play: Spurs, Lyon, Union Saint-Gilloise, and Steaua Bucharest. Ian, looking at the home ties, do you feel confident of, shall we say, at least 6 points being the expectation from those home ties? I personally, I think there's 9 points there that we can certainly get. Because I think we can beat Union, I think we can beat Steaua, and Lyon and Spurs. Well, if Spurs turn up and they're Spursy, every chance. Lyon, still a very, very good side, though maybe not the giants they once were. So, I mean, where's your head at? What's your kind of expectation for those games? What would you be happy with?
So my initial thoughts were is at least 7 points, just to be different. Spurs, I'm just going to say I don't think we've got a team at this precise moment in time capable of beating Spurs. If Spurs turn up, they will just run over the top of us because they can do it in the EPL against the bigger teams as well. So if they can do it there, they can do it against us. So we'll cancel that game out. If we get anything from that, bonus. I would expect at least a draw against Lyon these days. I know when we played them a couple of seasons ago, and we actually played them on the road to Seville, and they kind of taught us a lesson at Ibrox that night. But they're not that team anymore. And they seem to be struggling in La Liga. I know it's early days yet, but so there's a potential for. I'd be happy if we got a point there. Obviously, with the extra bump of it being Ibrox, I'm on the night. I'm going to be going. We're going to beat this lot. I'll probably do the same with Spurs, even though I've just said that I'm writing that game off. On the night, I'll be like, yeah, get into them. We're going to hammer them 3-0. And then the other two games, I would expect wins because I'm a Rangers fan and I would expect to win.
Think though, right? How good a feeling will it be if we can get a result against Spurs and clip this up right here? Because this is what happens. But Ange Postecoglou obviously had a sort of a wink and a nod in our direction earlier on today. Quite right as well. I would expect nothing less. Given the torrid time of it we had trying to beat him when he was obviously at Celtic, if we could manage to get a result against what is a better side that I think than the one he had at Celtic, that would be quite incredible, would it not? That would just be, it'd be a cherry on top of the cake. But I would happily give up the 3 points against Lyon if it meant putting his nose out of joint personally.
Well, yeah, and it depends. I mean, I know that the ties have been split, that these are the games that we're having at home and the games we're having away. But at the moment, we don't know. I mean, unless something's broken, I don't know, and I haven't seen it. But we don't know which game is where as yet, as far as I'm aware. So Spurs might not be the first game we play. So we just have to take it as it comes. But if Spurs is the first game we play and we somehow walk out of there with 3 points, the confidence that will give our team in its rebuild, as we constantly keep getting told that we're in a rebuild, going through that competition could be huge. and it could springboard us through to that top 8 position, so we can forget the round of 32 and just concentrate on the round of 16. You never know. I am going to write it off. I've already said it, so I'm not going to go back on it. I would love to get one over on Ange. We have won games against Ange. He wasn't all conquering. And Steven Gerrard beat him from his bed, remember? And Gio even managed to get a win over him in an important game in the cup semi-final. It was just unfortunate. We wanted to win. We didn't get a result. And Lyon, again, like I say, they're not the team they were even back when we went to the we know Union Saint-Galois, I think is how we pronounce it. Yes. We've been there. We've done that. And Steaua Bucharest, massive back in the day. Not so much now. So I would expect 6 points from those 2 games. It's just what we're going to get from Lyon. For me, it needs to be at least a point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lewis, I'm going to just take a slightly different slant on this for a second, right? And then we'll throw up the away ties and we'll have a chat about that, right? But two questions for you. Firstly, is there any of those ties that you look at being at Ibrox that you think should be an absolute? Because I'm thinking the last time we played an English side in Europe, Liverpool came to Ibrox, didn't quite go down well. Is there any of those ties that you're actually fearing being at Ibrox? I mean, for me, I'm quite glad that we've got Spurs at Ibrox and not down the road at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, just purely because I think inevitably that's going to be a harder game if you've got to go away. I know it'd be ideal for Ian travel-wise, but, you know. And secondly, how much of an opportunity do both Rangers and Celtic have here against English opposition? Because you know what they're like. If you listen to TalkSport often enough, they do like to turn their nose up at the Scottish League, and particularly at Rangers and Celtic, as insignificant to them, like we couldn't lay a glove on them. How much of significance would it be if we could get results against their teams? Because that would surely make a statement of intent as well, that Rangers and Celtic are still clubs that they should be worried about in European context.
Well, I'll answer the first question. Unfortunately, I think I would fear Spurs home or away. I do agree with you that it's maybe a bit of a less daunting task that it's at Ibrox, because we don't know how this Ange Postecoglou Tottenham side will fare in Europe. And I don't think Tottenham are historically a great European side in the last couple of decades. I know they made it to a Champions League final, but they've also had some really embarrassing performances. I think they got beat off the lowest ranked team to ever play in the inaugural season of the Conference League, for example. So it'll be very difficult for some of the players to come and play at Ibrox, because, like I said, the atmosphere is going to be like nothing that any of them have ever experienced before. It's just different. You hear some of the best players to ever play the game that come to Parkhead or Ibrox, and it's ferocious. Like Gary Neville that you'd mentioned, he says it's the most intimidating atmosphere is probably Turkey, but the loudest and the most fearful he's ever been going into a football game is at Ibrox. And when we get going, it's deafening and it's really difficult to play in. So you're just hoping that plays its part. But Tottenham are a really, really good footballing side, a really, really good side. Like, he is a top manager. He turned Celtic into an absolute attacking powerhouse. And I think if he keeps going and keeps getting the signings correct, you'll see Tottenham start to challenge for that league, because some of the performances he has, like against Pep Guardiola's Man City, is really, really impressive. They've got a really, really good set of players. Heung-min Son is world class. The goalkeeper Vicario is very, very good, probably goalkeeper of the season last year. They brought in Dominic Solanke as well, which is a really good pickup. I think he scored 18 goals in the Prem last season. So going to be very, very difficult, but not impossible, just for the fact that it's at Ibrox. Now, for the second part of your question, I think, is the Aston Villa game home or away for Celtic?
It's Villa Park.
That's tough. That's going to be very, very difficult for Celtic. If it was at Parkhead, I would maybe consider them doing something. But again, Villa are just outstanding. A lot of people thought they would have slowed down this season, but there's no really any sign of that yet. But there's a question of them. They've not been in Europe for a long, long time. The difference is Celtic and Rangers are used to it. We're used to playing Thursday, Sunday, or Tuesday, Saturday, whatever. Aston Villa have not experienced that in a while, so never know. By the time they play that game, Celtic might be able to do something, but I don't see it, unfortunately. I think it will be very difficult for Rangers to do it at Old Trafford. As shit as Man United are at this moment in time, it's a team like us going to Old Trafford is always going to be difficult. So if we've got any hope against the other British sides, I think it might be Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur side at Ibrox, depending on when we play the game.
Absolutely. Away ties then, Ian. Have you noticed that seamless transition there, by the way, on the bottom of the screen? But again, Lewis touched on there. Manchester United obviously is the standout tie there. You'd have to say, and handily, Lewis can give us the inside track on where Man United actually are right now as well. So that'll be interesting. But looking at those away ties, somebody mentioned in the comments, if I could find it, about Olympiacos being a team for us to be concerning ourselves with. There we go, Mr. X it was. I mean, they did just win the Conference League last year, you know. And again, it might be the supposed third tier European competition, but some good sides they had to beat along the way to getting that job done. That was their first ever European trophy, which is incredible for a club with a kind of history of participation in European competitions that Olympiacos have got. They're kind of one of the most, if not the most decorated Greek sides, certainly. So that'll be a tough one as well, Ian, going away there. That's not an easy trip.
Never an easy place to go over to Greece to play football. Them, the Cypriot teams and whatnot, they do make it really tough. The atmosphere is on par with a bouncing Ibrox. It is one of the toughest places to go, and many teams will tell you the same thing. Like you said, they won the Conference League, hence why they're in the Europa League anyway, because they won their right to be here, even though they would have probably qualified from their own league anyway. They are a tough team to play against. We've seen that. I think last season we played them in a friendly before the start of the season, and we all were like, "Oh my god, that was how bad are we that we lost to this lot?" And then lo and behold, they go and win the Conference League, which was a third-rate European trophy until 2 seasons ago when West Ham went on and won it, and all of a sudden it was one of the greatest European trophies ever to have existed. So it's amazing how certain teams winning a competition can change the standard of it overnight. Not that I'm, annoyed at English teams for winning things and then changing the standard. I'm not bitter at all. But those are 4 really tricky away ties. So the importance of winning your home ties now comes into play, because if we can go away to, again, Man United, much like Spurs, it depends which one turns up on the day, because Man United can be absolutely superb. You can go back to last season when they played Liverpool.
There, Ian, something you'll remember. We done it against Leeds.
I remember that very, very well. That was a great European tie, that one. If you haven't ever seen that, go and ask your dad if you can see the VHS. If you've still got a VHS player, get in and do it. If not, it'll be on YouTube somewhere, but it is worth a look.
Will this be the first time we've played Manchester United since 2011 when Walter Smith's team?
Yes, the 0-0.
The 0-0 draw, yeah, which was a laudable performance, you've got to say, because that team, I mean, we think this team's threadbare, but that team was running in fumes.
Yeah.
The lack of backups there and what a season they had. But anyway, that's an aside. I just cropped into my head there.
But I do think it is, again, it depends on which Man United team turn up. If it's a Man United team that turns up thinking it's Rangers, we've won, we could potentially nick a point, if not more, from Old Trafford. I think you look back to last season, they played Liverpool. They can play some outstanding stuff. They didn't give up. One of our ex-loanees pops up with a winner in the last minute. They played really well that day. And then you look at last week against Brighton. In spells, they did really well, but they were torn apart quite easily. Admittedly, Brighton are one of probably the EPL's informed teams at the moment. But so it is a chance, depending on what team turns up. Malmo, they just give me nightmares because, as I've already alluded to, I've never actually seen us do well against Malmo. Nice, unknown to me, really. I don't, apart from, I think, a pre-season tournament, I don't think we've ever played them in anger. So if we can pick up 1 or 2 points there, get as many points at home, so 7 points there, a couple of points away, that should see us through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nice again, another French team, so it'll be an interesting one. I know they've had a decent one the last couple of seasons. Also, a very good biscuit as well as a Nice biscuit, got to say. But Lewis,
horrible biscuit, can't dunk it.
Oh well. That's a can of worms for another day. But Lewis, you obviously touched on it. Your other lads in there, Manchester United, a very interesting evening for you when you're watching that one. Where are they right now? If you're looking at this, Rangers going there, I mean, I remember watching them last year getting beat by Copenhagen. And I think, was it Galatasaray, I think, went to Old Trafford and won. And I look at those teams and I think, yeah, I think Rangers are about as good as them. Why couldn't we go down to Old Trafford and pick up a result?
It's going to be a very strange occasion for myself. I probably would watch Man United just as religiously as I watch Rangers. Obviously, Rangers is number one in my heart, of course, but it will be a very, very strange afternoon for myself. Regarding the result, I do really think it depends on when we play them, because their biggest problem is their manager. That Eric Ten Hag is just, there's nothing has changed at all tactically about Man United in the first two games of the season. They were pretty handily beat by Brighton, and then the first game of the season they were kind of lucky to beat Fulham. They dominated the game, but the chance creation was really, really poor, and they left it late to get that done as well. But make no mistake about it, they have got some very, very good football players. I mean, Bruno Fernandes can beat Rangers on his own. He is a genuine world-class midfielder, and if he decides to turn it on, we're in trouble. You've got Alejandro Garnacho or Marcus Rashford to go up against Tav. That's some nightmare stuff right there. And it's written in the stars that Abad's going to get a goal in it. It's going to happen. I can see it happening. So it's going to be tough. But I think it's probably. I actually think Tottenham at home is still going to be tougher, because I think Tottenham are just a far superior football inside to Rangers. Man United, like Ian said, have that donkey in them where they are certainly capable of fumbling the bag, like you said, against Copenhagen. I think Rangers are probably a better side than that Copenhagen team for last season, and Galatasaray also done it, so it's not out with the realms of possibility, but it will be very, very difficult.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Okay, well, parking the European stuff there. Sharpie coming in there, Ian. He's gone for the chocolate hobnob in a club for Duncan. I tell you, that feels like a very interesting debate. I mean, a club biscuit for the chocolate will fall off it, won't it? Anyway,
you suck the chocolate off and it makes it better. But that's a random rabble topic. Yes. That we'll bring that back.
The things that come up in these shows, it's not even a quiet news day. Right, okay then, gents. Well, we'll finish off by having a chat about the game on Sunday. Battle fever, very much just starting to get notched up. I always, Ian, feel at my most nervous in that sort of hour before kickoff, where everything's building up. That's when it usually starts to hit me. Where are you with the game on Sunday? Do you think we can go and get a result?
As I sit here now, absolutely not. It's a movie we've seen a million times before. We're going to go in there thinking we can get something. Even the sounds that are coming out from ex-players and all the rest of it, if we can go to Celtic Park and hold them for 20, 25 minutes. We know we can. We never can. And I don't want to. I don't want to sit back and let them come out. As if anybody's been watching Celtic this season, the first 20 minutes in most of their games, they're already 2-0 up. So what's the point of sitting back and letting them come at us? So at this point in time, I'm not confident of anything. I believe there's a few people, and I've heard it on different podcasts, and I've heard it in our chat as well, that if you were to offer me a point now and we didn't have to play the game, I'd take it. Mr. X, I make my own custard creams. One day maybe I'll show you. They take 3 hours to make. They take ages. But that's thrown me completely. Back to the going over there. Right now, yeah, I'm not confident right now at this very moment. If someone offered me a draw, I'd take it. But come Sunday before kickoff, like I said, for the European games, I'll be adamant that we're going to batter them.
Yeah, well, Lewis, as promised from earlier on, Mr. James Stewart, who gave us a very generous super chat of £50. He's saying it's a must win on Sunday. Would you agree with that sentiment, Lewis? Is it a must win or is it a must not lose? Ian, I'll throw that to you since Lewis is having technical difficulties.
I think it's so early in the season, I don't see it as a must win because it's still the first month of the season. So there's a lot of time to recover it. You don't know what's going to happen throughout a season. We lose this one, but win the other three, for example, we won't look back at this one and unless we lose the league by a point, and we'll go back to that then and then say that there'll be other contributing factors to that. I never think it's a must win. It's a great win because psychologically it does things for you, and it does put that doubt in their head that actually they can beat us. And let's not remember the last time we won the opening Old Firm tie of the season against a Brendan Rodgers team. Not long after that, Rodgers went, "No, not for me. I'm off," and took the first ship to the first EPL club that would give him a job, which was Leicester. So I'm praying the same thing happens again. Who knows? But I don't see it as must win, but it does do a lot for the psychological aspect of it if you do win it.
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis, if you're back with us, here's the point. Here's a point that Philip Gage makes. We've got more competitive games than Celtic this season under our belt. He doesn't think we'll lose. He thinks we'll win 2-1 or draw. Is that a fair point in terms of the competitive games aspect? Because I'm thinking we've obviously had Tynecastle, we've had the games against Dynamo Kiev as well, which, not easy games. Celtic thus far, even Motherwell put up a fight against us. That was a struggle. And then obviously St Johnstone County. Celtic thus far have played Kilmarnock off the back of European exploits that clearly take their toll and who aren't firing domestically right now. Again, they played a St Mirren side who's similar to that, to Kilmarnock. We're still in Europe at the time and clearly feeling that, not to diminish it because they've scored a barrel of goals. And then obviously the two games against a fairly slow starting Hibs side. So in that aspect, I mean, I don't know how much of an edge it gives us, but it is a point. This will probably be the hardest game Celtic have played this season so far.
It probably will, but I still think it will make absolutely zero difference. Because Celtic have been incredible in the games we've played. We have struggled in almost every single game this year, bar the Ross County game. So I actually, unfortunately, don't share the optimism with that comment, and I don't think it makes much difference. It's just that the two
There
football
you go,
clubs.
Lewis. Tom Montgomery, the fact the bookies have got us at 4-1. I mean, that is, I must say, that's quite incredible. I can't tell you, please gamble responsibly, of course, but that does seem high odds. I've not seen us going to Old Firm games more than usually evens or 2-1 for the away team tends to be the case. So to be 41, we're obviously not fancied.
No, I think this is probably the biggest gap we've seen since halfway through the 55 season when we were just untouchable towards Celtic. I don't think there's been as much of a gap since probably that time period. And I think the gap is unfortunately reality. I think there is a massive gulf in the ability of the two squads at the minute. And you Celtic are looking to add like £30 million on three players to their squad, and we're struggling to get anybody in the door for any sort of money. So I think that's a damning indictment of where both teams are at this moment in time. But you always have to take into account that this is an Old Firm. Everything does go out the window. It's just such a hard fixture for both sides. Celtic will have so much pressure on them because if they do anything less than 2 or 3-0 and a comfortable win, there will be questions asked and people will start doubting Brendan Rodgers already. Why put away this pitiful Rangers side? And if we somehow get a draw or God forbid we beat them, there will be moon howlers out instantly. It will be very, very bad because they are so confident already. And the fact that they've got this, slightly easier, apologies, slightly easier.
You've never looked better, Lewis.
Just because the European stuff, they've just got so much confidence, so much arrogance. So I think if they don't put us away comfortably, it will be a bit of a psychological boost towards Rangers. All I can hope is that Cyril Dessers somehow does something, because otherwise I don't see it and it was happening.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, look, the reality is, going away from home to play them is not easy. At the best of times, obviously, there's not going to be any away fans there. But right now, does it feel to you maybe this game's coming just a bit too early in the season than we'd have liked? If this game is maybe a few more weeks down the line to give us a chance to build on the momentum of the Ross County result, because that was a fantastic result. We can't get away from that. That was our best performance this season. It was an ideal game for us to play after the European disappointment, but I would have maybe liked a couple of games in between that and the Celtic game to just build momentum rather than going straight in.
In an ideal world, yeah, it would. But this game is traditionally around about this time of the season. So it's no different to any other year. The only year that changed is when COVID happened and they thought that they might have a bit of an advantage because they thought the crowds might be getting back in around the time of that sort of mid-September, early October time. So the game got pushed back. And obviously we came out on top on that day. And I can see some people in the comments saying that we're bigging up that lot too much. But what do you want us to come on here and lie to you and say that, yeah, we're going to go over there, we're going to smash it? Or do you want honest opinion? That's what we're here for. We're here for honest opinion. Nothing from last season has made us think that we're going to go to Celtic Park and dominate it and win it.
But on that though, Ian, just because you've mentioned last season, though, is that not a fair point for AJ though? Because if you look at the games last season, VAR was honking for us. I mean, we got done at the first game, for example. Kemal Roof scores a perfectly fine goal. It gets chopped off for Lagerbielke kicking Dessers in the back of the leg. You look at the games at Celtic Park as well. We ended up down to 10 men in both those games. We didn't finish the 11 on the park. That doesn't help your cause. Lindstrom obviously was a stonewall red with stupidity. You've then got...
In fairness, so was Balogun. Balogun was a straight red as well. You can't argue that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then you get the confusion with the Johnston punching the ball out and the offside and the lines. And so I think there's perhaps been an element of luck going against us at times as well, but we've maybe just not had that rub of the green. If you're being optimistic, that is, you could argue.
We've not had the rub of the green with VAR, but I'm not going to use VAR as an excuse. That's not... VAR itself isn't the problem. It's the people using VAR that's the problem, and not having the ability to use it correctly. Even the decisions that everybody's thinking that are going to get turned over, the Matt O'Reilly penalty at Parkhead, where everybody's looking at that going, well, that's going to get overturned, but it's Willie Collum, and Willie Collum's live on the TV. So Willie Collum's not going to change his mind. So I'm not going to use VAR as an excuse. These things did happen, and yes, we've probably seen things since then that have happened exactly the same, and goals have stood, or free kicks have gone the other way, or whatever. So yes, we've had things go against us. I'm not going to turn into one of them and start shouting to the moon about everyone's against us and all the rest of it. The comment that just came up, they said, you make your own luck. And we'll have to do that, because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy going there. It never is. Even with fans, it's not easy. Why the fans are in, we all know in our own mind why that may be. But again, that's a political run statement thing. We all know why that may be, and it's not what we think that we're being told it is. But we need to go there. The best thing we can do is go out there, get them quiet. And the best way to get them quiet is to score. Make them think, make them panic, because nobody's done it. Nobody's gone at them. So go at them. We've got a break coming up after that where he can get the team together and work on whatever he wants. As Gerrard used to say, go out, empty the tank, give it everything. We've got a break after it. Just go and smash it. And if we try, you never know what might happen at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lewis, I think this sums up the mood that seems to be this erraticness. Kermit complaining that we're talking too much about them. I mean, I don't know if Kermit's aware, Lewis, but we are playing them on Sunday, so it is, kind of incumbent upon us to chat about that in an honest manner. Yeah, well, okay. We'll park it there, gents, and we shall see what happens. In fact, what we'll do before we do go is I'll get a quick prediction off the two of you for Sunday. Ian, your prediction for the scoreline on Sunday?
Oh, this is where my inner Wilf comes in, because I don't like to predict us getting negative results. So I'm going to go with, despite everything I've said, walking out of Parkhead with a 1-0 win.
Whoa. Well, listen, I would take it, absolutely. Lewis?
Out of the fear of never being allowed back on this podcast, I will not admit the true result that I have in my head. But I think best case scenario, I'm going to say 1 each, and it's going to be Cyril Dessers to score first.
1-1. Well, again, I'm not so sure I wouldn't take that either. I'll plump for a Desmond. I think 2-2. I think we'll get a draw. Okay.
Fair
well,
Before we do go, I know that we had the £50 super chat earlier on. If you don't want to do a £50 super chat, that's absolutely fine. But what you can do is, if you go to the Rangers Rabble website, you can splurge that 50 quid on some merch, because we have t-shirts of different various ranges that you've seen, mugs, which you've seen, hoodies. I think there's caps on there as well. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. But yeah, that's another way to spend 50 quid. Just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, I assume caps as in the hat and not international call-ups, but you never know. We are branching out all the time. Yes, I was funny enough about to say that, because Sharpie had said he was going to have a tenner on, and I was going to say he could spend that tenner at the Rangers Rabble shop, as you have so eloquently highlighted there, Ian. My thanks to yourself, Ian, and Lewis. That's been a good hour and a bit. And fear not, people, unlike Oasis, you don't have to wait 15 years for us to get back together. We will be back in about 50 minutes' time. Martin will take you through for the remainder of the transfer window. Anything that happens there, I'm hearing that Bajrami might well be over the line or getting there, so I'm sure we'll get that. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, you can also become a member as well. Costs less than a cup of coffee. And Ian's already plugged the merch, so that does my job for me. And we will see you, as I say, in less than an hour.